The city never slept, but I tried to. My eyelids burned, heavy as stone after a 16-hour shift at the hospital. My scrubs were wrinkled, my sneakers scuffed, and my entire body ached in ways I'd stopped counting years ago. I sat on the cracked bench at the bus stop, clutching my bag like it was life itself as the cold night air cut through my thin jacket. I told myself I'd stay awake. I always did. But exhaustion had no mercy. My head dipped, then dipped again until it found something solid and warm, a shoulder. I jolted upright, blinking myself awake, heat crawling up my cheeks. Beside me sat a man, not just a man, a presence. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, and eyes like molten gold fixed on me with an intensity that made my pulse stumble. "Sorry," I mumbled, scrambling to sit straight. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't," he interrupted, his voice low, deep and commanding. The kind of voice that wasn't used to being argued with. I should have been afraid. Any woman alone at night in New York would have been. But something about him was different. His scent clung to me, warm, wild, and ancient. Wood smoke, rain, and something wild I couldn't place. It wasn't cologne. It was natural, primal. My breath caught because I didn't know him, but my body did. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if he noticed my reaction. He leaned closer, the night wrapping around us like a secret. "You shouldn't be out here alone. I don't really have a choice." I whispered, my voice betraying how tired I was. He studied me, his gaze flicking from my worn-out sneakers to the dark circles under my eyes. For a moment, I swore there was something dangerous flickering in that golden stare. Not danger directed at me, but at the world that left me like this. "You'll see me again," he said finally, like it was a promise or a warning. Then a sleek black car pulled up at the curb. He stood, towering over me, his shadow stretching long across the cracked pavement. I thought he'd leave without another word, but before he slid inside, he glanced back once more. And when he did, my heart stuttered because for a second, in the reflection of the car window, I didn't see a man at all. I saw the faint outline of a wolf. This is a werewolf romance audiobook written by Celine Faxi for entertainment only. Enjoy. Chapter 1. The Nurse and the Stranger. The alarm blared at 6 a.m., dragging me out of the kind of sleep that wasn't rest at all. My head pounded, my back ached, and the cheap mattress did nothing for either. I rolled out of bed and stared at the tiny studio apartment I called home. A kitchenette crammed into the corner, a second-hand dresser leaning on one leg, peeling paint on the walls. New York was expensive. Being a nurse barely covered rent, let alone groceries, which meant working double shifts, taking every overtime slot, and pushing my body until exhaustion claimed me at bus stops. I groaned and shoved a piece of bread into the toaster. My brain replayed the night before despite my best efforts to block it out. That man, the one with eyes like liquid gold. I rubbed my face, muttering, "Get a grip, girl." Handsome strangers didn't materialize at bus stops, not in this city. And if they didn't look at girls like me as if I mattered. I pulled my scrubs on, stuffed my hair into a messy bun, and went to work. The hospital was chaos. Crying children, exhausted doctors, the endless beep of monitors. I buried myself in it like always. Caring for others gave me purpose. It reminded me I mattered, even when I felt invisible everywhere else. By the time I clocked out, I was dragging again. The night air was sharp as I stepped outside, hugging my jacket closer. That's when I noticed the car. Not just any car, a sleek black SUV parked across the street. Windows tinted, engine idling. My skin prickled, but I shook it off. New York was full of expensive cars. Not my world. Except the moment I reached the bus stop, the back window rolled down. My heart lurched. It was him, the man from last night. His golden eyes found mine like they'd been waiting all day. "You again?" I muttered under my breath, too stunned to move. "You shouldn't be standing here," he said, voice calm but firm, as if my being on this street was unacceptable. "Get in." I laughed nervously, clutching my bag tighter. Yeah, no, that's how women end up on true crime documentaries. His lips twitched, almost a smile, though his aura was too commanding for warmth. "If I wanted to harm you, I had my chance last night." "Comforting," I said dryly, stepping back. "But I'm not getting in your car." "I don't know you yet," he corrected, eyes flashing like embers catching light. The word burned. Yet, I swallowed hard, fighting the strange pull inside me. Every nerve screamed at me to run. But something deeper, something older than logic, whispered to stay. "Look," I said, my voice breaking on exhaustion more than fear. "I appreciate the whatever this is, but I'm not interested in handouts or strange men who think they can just swoop in because they drive a nice car. I take the bus. That's my life." His jaw tightened, not in anger, frustration, like he wasn't used to being told no. Then slowly, he leaned forward. The car's interior light caught his face, illuminating sharp cheekbones, a scar along his jaw. And those impossible golden eyes. "You think this is about money?" I froze. "This isn't charity. This is..." His words trailed, but his gaze locked on mine, fierce, hungry. Fate. The bond slammed into me like a wave. My lungs constricted, my knees threatened to buckle. My heart recognized him before my mind could deny it. But I tore my gaze away, shaking my head furiously. "No, you've got the wrong girl. Whatever you think you saw in me, you're mistaken." His hand flexed against the leather seat. For a moment, I swore claws flashed at his fingertips, then vanished. There are no mistakes. The driver glanced nervously in the mirror, as if he too knew what his alpha had just revealed. Alpha. The word drifted through my mind like a whisper. I turned, storming away, heart racing. My world was small, human, fragile. I couldn't afford this. Not fairy tales, not fate. But as I sat at the bus stop again, trying to calm my pounding pulse, the SUV pulled away into the night. And even though I told myself I was glad that I wanted nothing to do with him, my body betrayed me because I already missed him. Chapter 2. The Alpha at the Hospital. Hospitals always smelled the same. Bleach and despair, with just a hint of burned coffee. I hated it, but I lived in it. The endless white walls and harsh fluorescent lights blurred into one another. Day after day, shift after shift, I leaned against the nurse's station, trying to ignore the ache in my lower back. A double shift was brutal, but bills didn't care about exhaustion. My body screamed for rest, yet the pager clipped to my hip promised I wasn't done yet. Room 314 needs meds. Dr. Kim barked as he rushed past, dropping another chart in front of me. I nodded, already moving. Routine. That's what this was. My life was nothing but routine, predictable, endless, and safely human. Until he walked in. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. No man like him belonged in this place. He didn't just enter the emergency room. He commanded it. People moved without realizing, giving him space as if the air shifted to obey him. His black, tailored coat brushed against his thighs, and his presence turned the sterile hospital corridor into something wild. Electric golden eyes found me instantly. I froze, meds forgotten in my hand. "What the hell?" I whispered under my breath. He moved toward me with unhurried certainty, each step echoing with the sound of inevitability. A predator with all the time in the world. "You!" I hissed, heart hammering as I shoved the chart against my chest like a shield. Why are you here? I told you we'd see each other again." His voice was steady, deep, threaded with something primal that made my insides tremble. "You followed me here?" A few nurses glanced up, curious. He didn't even look at them. His eyes stayed fixed on me, gaze burning with intensity that felt like it would strip away my every defense. "I found you," he corrected, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "You shouldn't have to stand at a bus stop after saving lives all night. You shouldn't live like this." My throat tightened, fury and shame battling in my chest. Who was he to come here, to look at my life, my sacrifices, and decide I wasn't enough? "Don't you dare pity me," I snapped. "I work hard. I don't need pity." His golden eyes flared, sharp as sunlight through broken glass. He leaned closer, the edge of his coat brushing against my arm. "You think that's what this is? I don't pity you. I claim you." The words hit harder than a slap. My blood went cold, my skin hot, every nerve screaming with awareness. The bond roared awake between us, undeniable. It wasn't just attraction, it was deeper, older, ancient. "You're insane," I whispered hoarsely. But the words lacked conviction. "No," he said softly, dangerously. "I'm Alpha." The word rolled off his tongue with such certainty that I felt it in my bones. And suddenly, the strange reflection I thought I'd imagined in the car window made sickening sense. He wasn't just some millionaire with a wolfish aura. He was literally a wolf. My heart thudded, panic clawing its way up my throat. "Stay away from me," I demanded, though it came out broken. Something shifted in his eyes. Pain? Frustration? He exhaled slowly, as if forcing himself to give me space. "I will not force you, but you can't fight fate forever. The bond will only grow stronger." And with that, he turned just like that, leaving me clutching the chart like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My chest heaving, my hands shaking so badly the paper slipped from my grip. I wanted to scream, to deny him, to laugh in his face. But when his scent lingered in the hall long after he was gone, smoke and rain, wild and intoxicating, I knew the truth. I was already his, and that terrified me more than anything. Chapter 3, The Invitation. The next morning. I promised myself I would forget him. I scrubbed my face, tied back my hair, and threw myself into the day like nothing had happened. Just another shift. Just another morning in New York. I was a nurse, exhausted, underpaid, invisible. Men like him didn't exist in my world. Except they did. Because when I left the hospital after I shift, I found him waiting. Not leaning casually against a wall like some lovesick fool. Not hiding in the shadows. No. He stood beside the same sleek SUV from before. Its tinted windows glinting in the pale sunlight. He wore a dark suit this time, perfectly cut, sharp lines that looked more like armor than clothing. He wasn't pretending to be ordinary. He wasn't hiding who or what he was. And I hated how my heart skipped just seeing him. I tightened my grip on my bag and forced myself forward. "You need to stop following me." "I'm not following," he said simply, voice smooth even. "I'm waiting for what you." The word landed like a blow. He said it with such certainty, such calm, that for one terrifying second I almost believed it. "Look," I muttered, trying to push past him. "I don't have time for this. I have rent due, bills piling up, and another shift in 12 hours. So whatever fantasy you're trying to play out, dinner?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" "Have dinner with me," he said, like it wasn't a request at all. I laughed sharply. "Are you kidding me? You think I'm going to climb into your fancy car?" And yes, the way he said it, steady, commanding, like the word itself, bent the world, sent a shiver down my spine. But I forced myself to shake my head. "No, I don't know you and I don't want to." His eyes softened just slightly, enough to crack the steel in his voice. "Then let me change that." Before I could argue, the back door of the SUV opened, and inside, my breath caught. It wasn't just leather seats and polished wood. It was opulence, a table set with glassware. A silver tray carrying dishes that steamed faintly in the cool air. It looked like a private dining room had been carved out of the vehicle itself. "What? How?" I stammered. "I'm not asking you to abandon your world," he said quietly. "I'm inviting you into mine." I stared at him at the impossible reality in front of me. The smart choice would have been to walk away, to run, to never look back. But my stomach clenched with hunger. My legs ached from hours of standing. And God help me, curiosity burns hotter than fear. I slid into the SUV. His eyes gleamed with something dangerous, triumphant as he joined me inside. The car purred to life, gliding into the stream of New York traffic. For a moment, silence stretched between us, broken only by the city outside. Then he spoke. "My name is Adrian Blackwood." I blinked. The name wasn't unfamiliar. I'd heard whispers on the news, in hospital gossip, in the kinds of conversations people thought no one overheard. A millionaire, a businessman. A man too powerful to cross. "You're that Blackwood?" I asked faintly. His lips curved, though it wasn't exactly a smile. "The same?" I pressed a hand to my forehead. "This is insane. Why me? I'm no one." His gaze locked onto mine, golden and unyielding. "You are my mate." The word thrummed in the air like a spell, like a vow. And though I didn't understand the weight of it, my heart responded as if it had been waiting to hear it all my life. Chapter 4. Dinner with the Alpha. The SUV's cabin was silent, except for the low hum of the engine and the muffled chaos of New York beyond the tinted glass. Inside, it felt like another world, warm, insulated, intimate, too intimate. I sat stiffly, my bag clutched in my lap, while Adrian poured wine into 2 crystal glasses as though we were at a 5-star restaurant instead of in a moving car. He handled everything with calm precision, like a man who was always in control. I hated how calm he was when my insides felt like a hurricane. "Eat," he said, sliding a plate toward me. Smawn, asparagus, roasted potatoes, delicacies that didn't belong anywhere near my budget. I shouldn't," I faltered. His golden eyes narrowed slightly, and my stomach growled at the worst possible moment. Heat flooded my face. "Fine," I muttered, snatching the fork. The first bite melted on my tongue, savory and rich. My body betrayed me again, sighing in relief at real food. It was the first proper meal I'd had in days, and it showed. "Better?" he asked. I glared at him over the fork. "Stop looking so smug. You're not rescuing me." "I'm not trying to rescue you." He leaned back in his seat, one arm draped over the leather like a king on a throne. "I'm feeding what's mine." The fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Excuse me?" His gaze didn't waver. "You're mine, Leia. My mate." The word again, mate. Like it meant something bigger than just attraction, bigger than love. My chest tightened as the same magnetic pole flared between us, making my pulse race. I set the fork down hard. "Listen, I don't know what kind of cult or it's not a cult." His voice cut through my protest, sharp and commanding. "It's truth. Our kind doesn't stumble across destiny by accident. When the moon goddess chooses, the bond is unbreakable." I blinked, trying to keep my breathing even. "Our kind." "Adrian, I'm not. Whatever you think I am, you're wrong. I'm human, just human." His jaw tightened, but his eyes softened. "You're human. But that doesn't matter. The bond doesn't make mistakes. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes." The conviction in his voice shook me. He believed this, believed us, and a part of me, a very dangerous part, wanted to believe it too. I looked away, pressing a hand to my forehead. "You're insane. You sound... Do you feel it?" His question cut through my words. I froze. He leaned forward, his voice low, almost a growl. "When you look at me, when you breathe in my scent, when our eyes meet and your chest tightens. Tell me you don't feel it." I wanted to. God, I wanted to laugh in his face, call him delusional and storm out, but I couldn't, because the truth was, I felt it every time he looked at me. That invisible thread pulling us closer, that ache in my chest when he walked away. I stayed silent, my throat too tight to answer. Adrian's lips curved not into a smile, but something deeper, unknowing. "You feel it." Anger flared at him, at myself, at the unfairness of it all. "Even if I do, I can't just throw my life away because some ancient wolf goddess decided to play matchmaker." His golden eyes burned hotter, but his voice softened. "I'm not asking you to throw your life away. I'm asking you to let me in." The car slowed, pulling to a stop. Outside the tinted window, glittering lights stretched across the skyline. Manhattan, his world, a world that had always been untouchable to someone like me. I swallowed hard, heart hammering. Every instinct screamed that stepping into his world meant no going back. And yet, I couldn't look away from him. Chapter 5. Crossing into the Alpha's world. The SUV purred to a stop outside towering wrought iron gates, their black steel marked with a crest. 2 wolves circling a silver moon. I froze. This can't be real, I whispered, more to myself than to Adrian. He glanced at me, calm as ever. It's very real, and it's time you saw it. The gates opened silently, like they were waiting for us, and the car glided down a private drive lined with old oaks, their branches curled overhead like skeletal fingers, shadows spilling across the sleek blacktop. At the end of the drive, a mansion rose out of the darkness. Not gaudy, not tacky, something older, heavier, the kind of house that carried secrets in its stones. Columns rose high against the night sky, and massive windows glowed with golden light. I pressed back into the seat, clutching my bag tighter. Adrian, no! I can't go in there! His gaze slid to me, golden eyes steady. You already have. The SUV doors unlocked with a soft click. My heart pounded as I climbed out, my sneakers crunching against the gravel. The air here felt different, charged, alive. And then I realized we weren't alone. Figures moved in the shadows, men, women, watching from the edges of the driveway. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Not human at all. Wolves in human skin. My stomach dropped. Adrian, I hissed, trying to back toward the car. This is insane. These people. They're my pack, he said simply. He stepped beside me, close enough that his heat radiated against my arm. And now they're yours too. The words sent ice racing down my spine. No, I never agreed to that. You don't have to. His voice dropped to a low rumble. The bond decided. Before I could respond, the mansion doors opened. Spilling warm light across the stone steps, a tall woman descended. Sleek black hair, sharp cheekbones, dressed in silks that screamed elegance. Her eyes narrowed on me instantly. So it's true, she murmured, voice carrying a subtle hiss. You brought her. My chest tightened. She looked at me like I was dirt on her shoes. Adrian's posture shifted subtly, his shoulders rolling back, his presence expanding until the very air seemed to bow. Alpha. Every inch of him radiated it. Show respect, Helena, he said, his tone like steel wrapped in velvet. She is under my protection. Helena's lips twitched, not quite a smile, not quite a snarl. Protection is one thing, but making her Luna? Her eyes flicked over me, dripping disdain. She's weak, human. The words sliced like a blade. I wanted to snap back, but fear strangled me. What could I say? She wasn't wrong. I was human, poor, exhausted. I didn't belong in a world of golden-eyed predators. But before I could collapse under the weight of that truth, Adrian's hand found the small of my back, steady, firm. She is mine, he said, his voice dropping low, a growl threaded through the words. And she will be your Luna. You will respect her, or you will answer to me. The air shifted heavy and charged like a storm waiting to break. The wolves in the shadows stilled, watching, silent. Helena's jaw tightened, flicked to me again, burning with a promise I didn't understand. Then, with a sharp turn, she swept back inside the mansion. Adrian's touch lingered at my back. Come, he murmured softer now. You've seen the gates. Now, step fully inside. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to turn and never look back. But I didn't. My feet carried me forward, across the stone steps, past the wolves, who watched with unreadable eyes into the mansion that smelled of smoke, pine, and something older than time. And with each step, one truth pressed heavier against my chest. I wasn't just walking into Adrian's house. I was walking into his world. Chapter 6, The Mansion of Wolves. The doors closed behind me with a heavy thud that echoed through the cavernous entryway. I'd never seen anything like it. The mansion's interior was warm with golden light, but there was nothing comforting about it. The air carried the faint scent of smoke, pine, and something older, earthy, primal, dangerous. High ceilings arched overhead, lined with exposed beams. A massive fireplace roared in the center hall, its flames throwing shadows across the stone walls and everywhere. Ice Pack members moved silently along the hallways, their gazes flicking toward me and away again, sharp as blades. Some curious, some hostile, none welcoming. I tightened my grip on my bag, my pulse pounding. "This isn't a home," I whispered under my breath. "It's a fortress." Adrian's lips curved faintly. Both. He walked beside me, his presence steady, commanding, impossible to ignore. Every step he took echoed with authority, as though the house itself bent around him. I tried to keep my voice level. "Why are they looking at me like that?" "Because you don't belong here." He didn't soften the words. They landed heavy, blunt, true. Then his gaze cut to me, gold catching the firelight. "But you will." Something inside me rebelled at the certainty in his tone. "You can't just decide that. You can't just drag some girl off the street and declare her yours. That's not how your world works," he finished smoothly. "But this isn't your world anymore, Leia." Before I could argue, a figure appeared on the staircase. A young man, maybe 20, wiry and lean, eyes sharp as a hawk. He moved fast, dropping into a bow before Adrian. "Alpha," he said breathlessly. "Scouts report movement at the east border. Rogues." Adrian's jaw tightened. The air in the hall shifted. Tense. "How many?" "6, maybe 7. Circling." Adrian's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Double the patrol. No one crosses. If they test our strength, remind them whose city this is." The young wolf nodded sharply and vanished as quickly as he came. I stood frozen, the word burning in my head. Rogues. Not just wolves. Dangerous wolves. Wolves that wanted something, I whispered. This is real. All of it." Adrian turned to me then, close enough that his scent wrapped around me. Cedar, musk, and the faint, wild edge of pine forests. "It's real, and it's yours now, whether you accept it or not." My breath caught. His nearness was overwhelming, intoxicating. My body leaned toward him before my mind could stop it. But then I remembered Helena's sneer, the eyes in the shadows. The word human spat like an insult. I pulled back. "They'll never accept me." "They don't have to accept you." His gaze locked on mine, intense, unyielding. "They have to accept me, and I've chosen you." The words hit like fire. It wasn't a promise. It was a declaration. Before I could speak, he turned and led me deeper into the house. My steps echoed against polished stone as I followed him down a hallway lined with portraits. Men and women painted in old oil, all with the same golden eyes. His ancestors, alphas before him. Finally, we stopped at a heavy wooden door. He pushed it open, revealing a room unlike the rest of the mansion. Smaller, warmer. A library lined floor to ceiling with books. A fire crackled in the hearth. The air filled with the scent of leather and ink. "This is where you'll be safe tonight," he said quietly. "My wolves will not disturb you here." I stepped inside, half expecting the shadows themselves to lunge at me. But the room felt different, quieter, almost gentle, if a place like this could ever be gentle. I turned to him, my throat tight. "Why me, Adrian? Out of all the women in the city, out of all the wolves in your pack, why me?" For the first time, his mask slipped just a little. His voice softened. "Because the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. And because from the moment you leaned against me, sleeping like you trusted me with your life, I knew I'd never let you go." The memory hit hard. My exhaustion, my head on his shoulder, his stillness beside me. A stranger. A stranger who hadn't moved, hadn't pushed me away. And now here he was, telling me I belonged to him. My heart pounded. Torn between terror and something far more dangerous. Desire. Chapter 7. Whispers in. Whispers in the dark. The library door shut with a low click, leaving me in the warm glow of the fire. For the first time since the bus stop, there was silence. No engines, no stairs, no wolves breathing down my neck. I sank into one of the leather chairs, clutching my bag against me like a shield. The scent of books and smoke wrapped around me, soothing and suffocating all at once. Safe. That's what he'd said. But safe felt impossible. I leaned back, staring at the fire. My whole body ached from exhaustion, but my mind raced too fast for sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Those glowing eyes in the dark. Helena's contempt. Adrian's golden gaze burning with certainty. Mate, Luna, mine. The words curled in my chest like fire and ice, battling until my head spun. Finally, restless, I stood and paced. My fingers trailed along the bookshelves, their spines embossed with gold lettering. Histories of packs, old myths. Journals so ancient the bindings cracked. I stopped at one shelf, pulling a volume free. The cover was black leather, scarred with claw marks that looked deliberate. Inside, sketches of wolves, not quite human, not quite beast. Mating bonds explained in faded script. Once chosen, the bond cannot be broken. Istance weakens, but never severs. Denial only deepens the ache. My stomach twisted. It sounded more like a curse than a gift. A noise pulled me back.